Alright, hello. Welcome to another video where we're going to be talking about the newest arcanes that have come in the old peace update. And this one is the arcane that I wanted to talk about least because I think it's by far the most uninteresting out of the entire update. But I will talk about it regardless. And this is Arcane Persistence. In case you're not familiar with Arcane Persistence, it is an arcane that removes your shields and makes you get at most 500 damage per second. And this is how it got released normally. Later on, a quote-unquote nerf was added to the arcane, where magnetic status and ability nullifying effects would disable the arcane completely, so all it did would just remove your shields. So that's pretty good. In general, the arcane is broken, especially on some characters like Inaros, Nidus, and a lot of other characters become really strong with this. But the underlying issue with the characters that this arcane is good at is that those characters become stat checkers, which is the worst type of design that you can put on a game such as this one. So, in terms of what I'm talking about, I'm gonna bring Chrome as an example. And sorry if you hear my dog, she's just very happy because Christmas. Merry Christmas, everyone. Also, if if you weren't on the stream yesterday, I actually drank around 35 shots of white wine, which was 750 milliliters, and I had already drunk before the stream. But even being that drunk, it didn't make me capable enough to make a video about this arcane. I just couldn't bring myself to do it. So I'm just gonna say that this arcane is really badly designed in my opinion, because what this arcane is and what I thought it would be like a thing similar to Death Stance from League of Legends, right? Where Death Stance is an item that makes you take damage more slowly, and then instead of taking it all together, it splits it to 50% and the other 50% you take it over time. But this one simply mitigates the damage you take altogether. You cannot take more than 500 damage a second. And in general, this is the biggest stat check of Arcane I've ever seen in my life. And as long as your Warframe can heal more than 500 damage per second, it's literally immortal, which is really broken. Now, on Wisp, this arcane is completely useless. Wisp can level cap without any of the mods and anything because she has too many tools to survive. On someone like Nidus, the other hand, this arcane is really good. And it's not just good because, it works on Nidus's health directly and makes him take less damage. It does, but it works in an extra way that I want to showcase real quick before I continue, because I think this is something extremely important and I don't think anyone documents it because nobody really plays Nidus. I, for one, don't like Nidus and his design at all because it's too stable or stale. You kind of just sit there and do nothing for the most part, but just press C, spam 1 to enemies, and it's really boring. And the fact that his casting speed is basically unaffected because of the way he works is really, really bad. So press 2, you cast 1, you have to wait for your 1 to run out before you can cast it. So the best way to do it is to cast it close to a wall so that it will actually run out very quickly, right? And that way you can get more DPS. But even so, if you don't get stacks, this is not great. But look at this. I can now try and cast it much quicker if I aim it on this wall. And sure, that's cool. But that doesn't fix Nidus' problem. Nidus' problem anyway is that he's less stationary on his fourth ability and he's just doing shit. Now, why is the arcane really good? Because not only does it reduce the damage you can take as Nidus when you're in the state, which is already good, but it also reduces the damage your redirected target can take. So your redirected target can now survive way easier. Look at this. He only took 3000 damage. This nade before Arcane Persistence would take him down to half HP. So that is something extremely, extremely good. But, the way stacks currently work on Nidus and the way his first ability works, where you have to actually wait for the first ability to work, or the way his second ability works, where I can't recast it on this group of enemies because it's already in use, all these are the clunky things that Nidus needs to get fixed from. I think the rest of his kit could just use some buffs and numbers and he would be absolutely goated still, and one of the stronger frames. He's already pretty good for some setups, and the fact that his ability strength potential to give to his team is multiplicative can completely break some warframes and some setups, but that's about it. Now, because of the interaction with persistence and his third ability when it's linked to an enemy, this Arcane is extremely good on Nidus and makes him a way more formidable frame to play and easily tank level cap. Because before, you would tank level cap, right? You would already be able to tank level cap. But your target that would help you tank level cap would die super quickly, and that made it so that you would need to recast history very quickly before you could do something, which was kind of unreliable. Now this makes it more reliable. Your target dummy that redirects the damage kind of survives longer, and it's way better. Now, other Warframe that is also really good at with this is Inaros. But Inaros, once again, his design and his focus around finishers, like, it doesn't really fit the game at all. And, people who have experimented with things like Elemental Sunstorm and, other stuff, but if we're being real, all Inaros' kit is a stat stick where, the stat stick is I don't take enough damage so I can't die. And then the second part of his kit is I have the swarm kitties. Because I have the swarm kitties, I cannot die. That's it. That's his entire kit. And I think it's really bad. I think now with the new Arcane, his passive is also useless. And in general, passives that override Last Gasp as a mechanic and give you something alternative is really bad, because Last Gasp as a mechanic is already super good. We don't need to replace it. But yeah, regardless, you can see that I will never die. It's not possible. That's kind of what I want to get at, and it can even get worse if you use things like the Kodahima, because Kodahima you can headshot and lifesteal your health back. But even worse, and by far the best weapon to use on every Warframe that you want to use Arcane Persistence on, is the Kodahirudo. Because what Kodahirudo does is if you melee and you crit, every crit you do will lifesteal you, will count as lifesteal towards you, so you get all your health back. But not only that, you can also use that to actually increase your max health, making Arcane Grace even more effective. Regardless, as you can see, Inaros will never go down from full HP because all he can get is 500 damage a second, and even if he does, then you can simply melee with Kodahirudo or headshot with a Kodahima and you still just don't die. It is that simple. So, yeah. Swarm Kavats are really good. Sandstorm with Elemental Sandstorm can be decent for base Steelpath, but that's about it. And then the rest of his kit is just, whatever. And I think you can make an argument about my build here, because I have a Mecha Inaros build. And I think if you actually take off Sandstorm instead of his one and use the Swarm Kitties from his one, then yes, that could be even better. Maybe. But I am not very sure, and I don't really care that much, to be honest, because it's Inaros and I find him extremely boring. One last frame I want to showcase on, and the one that I think gets a bit better here, is Lavos. Because Lavos' first ability heals him for the amount of damage dealt, you can now very easily do a DPS Lavos with Zada's Whisper, where your one is used to heal you back up, and then you can even have something like a Panzervolpaphyla healing you with Hansa Recovery and Viral Quills combo, which I talked about on the Wisp guide, and also saving you with Martyr Symbiosis and Tech Assault combo. So for this, I'm gonna probably go and do a small teaser about secondary Irradiate, because I think Irradiate is one of the best arcanes that we've got in Warframe in a very long time. So I think showcasing part of this will make this video way more interesting, because Persistence is very uninteresting as an arcane and very broken, and in general, yes, it does make some Warframes absolutely unkillable, and I like that, but other than that, it doesn't open up too many possibilities. There are some. So if I wanted to add more Warframes to the list that can use this arcane, I would definitely add Nezha, I would definitely add Hydroid with his Rousing Plunder augment, which makes him really good at health tanking already. So this augment plus the Arcane can make it even better. And also, lastly, I will add probably Wukong, although for that, I'm not 100% sure. So, I'm gonna showcase the Irradiate a bit by just shooting the Orticore with it while using Lavos, because you can most likely say this is normal Orticore. It's not Riven modded, but I want a large chunk of enemies real quick. Well, they're not tanky enough, so I can't really saw it, but I can say that this can easily lag your game, and the secondary Irradiate video will be very thorough on what guns that can use it and what guns break with it. In general, it's an amazing arcane, and I think secondary weapons have got back-to-back-to-back insane arcanes with Enervate, Irradiate, Fortifire. You know, we have got back-to-back-to-back insane arcanes all over the place. Absolutely love it. Anyways, so here, you see that I'm falling down health. I'm gonna let them, like, damage me a bit more. You know, obviously Lavos is not the tankiest, but if I press 1 on this guy, now suddenly I'm back to full health. So, you know, pretty good. Obviously, as I said, the Panzer Volpa, that can also heal me for a bit. As you can see, my HP is kind of ticking up, and once he shoots viral quills, it can also tick up back to pretty much full every time. So, very reliable at doing that if you want to do that, but if he ever completely dies and he's on his larva state like this, now you would have to use something to heal yourself directly, and your one is a very good tool by hitting multiple enemies. So yeah, Lavos is actually a really good example of it. And I think Nezha with something like either blue shards to get to the armor value, or straight up adding Warcry and playing a melee Nezha like I have is really good. So I'm gonna showcase that a bit. But yeah, in general, this arcane is really broken. I don't think I'm gonna use it in general. And I think there are some Warframes that will use it really well, and there is some Warframes that it actually helps quite a bit. But at the end of the day, I just don't like its design, and I think it's very boring. But is it good? Yes, absolutely. So I'm gonna showcase the Nezha for one last thing that we can see, and showcase the Coda Hirudo with him, because I think they go hand in hand, since Nezha melee capabilities is really good. So something like this. This is the build that I have right now. Persistence Reaper. Reaper helps you reach the armor value, and Warcry multiplies the base armor so you can reach the armor value very easily. And even if you get a heat proc or a corrosive proc randomly, like if you lose Warding Halo, let's say, you can easily do that. But Warding Halo also works into the armor buffs you get from Arcane Reaper and Warcry, so it multiplies the amount of damage you can attack by a lot, which is really nice. So I'm gonna go ahead to Elara. It has by far the tankiest enemies in the game, so it would be a really good place to showcase this. In. But yeah, the Arcane is really strong. It's in fact broken. It is something that I don't like as a move from DE, because I think lowering the amount of damage you can take by half immediately, and then you take the other half over time, or something like that, is like a much better option than making the amount of damage you take flat. Anyway, I forgot to have a shield gate, so I died instantly. Oops. We gotta start with Brutal Tide real quick. Yeah. So now we're kind of working towards that. At Warcry. And go ahead. So now we have 68,000 shield. Obviously, my boy Hans, the Panzer Volpa, is healing me already. But you can see that the amount of damage I'm taking is really low regardless. And if I use the Hirudo, then I take no damage at all, which is really cool. So yeah. If you play correctly, you cannot really die ever with these builds. And there is no way you will ever take 500 damage or more than 500 damage a second to survive this. And if you do, then, you know, instead of Arcane Reaper, because obviously Arcane Reaper is not needed. I just like it a lot because it boosts the Warcry percentage. But, you know, just in case, you can easily remove Arcane Reaper and go Arcane Blessing for a bit more max health. Or you can build Koda Hirudo for an influence with Blast Electric and go Orange Shards that increase your maximum health that way. So regardless, you have the options to increase maximum health very easily, but not very valuable ways to increase the armor, you know? I think going for something like blue shards instead of orange shards for max health and doing, you know, Blast Electric influence is gonna be way more prevalent, way stronger. But at the end of the day, I don't like this build to begin with. Although Arcane Blessing is also a good option because, you know, you have your 2, you hit someone, and boom, health orbs. So, you know, that's also a really good idea if you want to go that way. Regardless, Nezha, you know, really good frame with this. I don't see any reason why you shouldn't use this on Nezha. I don't see any reason why you shouldn't use this Arcane on a lot of frame. Nidus, Nezha, Wukong, Lavos, Hydroid with the health tank build is probably really good. Many health tank frames. Citrine also, if you didn't think about her, Citrine is really good. Gonna go down the list and see if I find any more, but it's pretty amazing as an Arcane. I don't think Valkyrie needs it, for example, though. You know, Valkyrie already tanks level cap without anything, and her passive gets a lot of value regardless on those high level missions, so you don't really need it. Same with Trinity. Trinity can already tank level cap very easily. And all those frames that can do this, I don't think this Arcane is useful to them. Or frames like Wisp, where Wisp can in fact health tank at level cap, but at the same time, it doesn't really matter if she uses it because she has 2 invisibilities and 1 invincibility to help her survive. So you have to think, not only is the Arcane good on the person, because the Arcane would be good on Wisp, but also, would the Arcane be worth slotting in instead of a different Arcane that can give me something else? So that is something that you gotta think about when trying to make a build around this Arcane, and something that can help a lot. Because, for example, you could use this on Oraxia, but using this Arcane on Oraxia, you have to get rid of something like Arcane Arachne or Arcane Crepuscular or Arcane Acceleration, whatever you might use. So it might not be worth it in the end. Thank you very much for watching another video of mine, and I will see you on the next one.